and welcome to the McEwan Brothers podcast. Today's slightly different episode. We have a guest with us after Gregor nagging at me for weeks to get someone on. We finally managed to get a very interesting...
Can I just say, well done, Jamie. You've absolutely nailed it this week.
Well, we've got a very interesting and exciting family friend who has created a business, came from a very different background in sort of work. But we'd like to introduce Scott Morton to our podcast. Scott, welcome to the podcast. Is this your first one?
This is my first ever podcast. I was actually invited on one last year by some random guy that I sort of linked up with on Twitter, and then he invited me on it, and then he sort of dinged me for a day, and then he invited me back on it a week later, dinged me again, and then he asked me a third time. I was like, nah, sorry, you've missed your chance.
Yeah.
So.
You're in demand then, so we're lucky to have you.
So lucky to have you on. So obviously Scott, we've got Scott on for a particular reason. He has gone from business to his own business. I don't corporate world, corporate world. Yeah, corporate world to creating his own business. So Scott, let's if you can introduce yourself, what you were sort of doing before, sort of a bit of background to yourself, and then we'll continue on to obviously what business you've created.
Yeah, no worries. My name is Scott. I'm 24 years old. I went to Strathclyde University and studied finance, graduated with a honours degree, and graduated in March of 2020, straight into the pandemic when everything was sort of up in the air and everyone was cancelling their graduate schemes, Deloitte and EY and all the rest of it, and there wasn't a lot of jobs going, and I got an email in my inbox straight from the uni saying, here's a company in Glasgow looking to offer a position as a tax assistant on a graduate scheme that they're starting. Applied, went through the interview process, got the offer and accepted it straight away because I honestly had no idea what was going to happen, so I just took the first job that came my way. Worked at it for a year, wasn't loving it. I was sitting in a lecture one day, working towards my professional qualifications, and the lecturer was teaching us about like VAT rates on Jaffa cakes and what's the difference between a Jaffa cake and a biscuit. Is it a cake? Is it a biscuit? Why does it get VAT'd at this rate and not that one? I just thought to myself, I do not want to spend the rest of my life doing this, because the lecturer's quote was, after she went on this anecdote about Jaffa cakes, she said, that's quite interesting, isn't it? I just thought to myself, absolutely not. So that was that. I just decided from that, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I just knew that what I was doing currently wasn't what I wanted to keep doing. So I just went to look for anything and everything that I could do to replace my job, and just stumbled into this sort of e-commerce business that took off. So
Nice. Has that, obviously quite a big change from working for someone to sort of doing a switch to yourself. My knowledge is that you were doing both at one point.
Yeah, so there's a very, very slight overlap into the end of, as soon as I handed in my notice, I basically started working on this side project. It didn't take a lot, I was still doing my job and doing it on the afternoons and weekends, because basically just building the website at that point and sort of piloting the concept. And there's, I didn't have a problem with the people. Like, I loved the office and I loved the people that worked there. It was just the actual job that I really disliked, which I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to. So it was nothing against the company and the people that worked there. Just
Of course. Yeah. Do you find it interesting that you got that job straight up the pandemic? It's the only probably job that was going that was you thought would be suitable for you, and you say you took the first job that came across your path. But obviously now with things opening up and there's more choice and maybe potentially more schemes that you could join or such, is that something that's crossing your mind at the moment, or is it mainly your business that you're currently operating?
No, so I haven't left the job and then haven't run this for a bit. I'm very aware that this business I would frame it as more of like a side hustle. Like, when things were really good, like, it does generate an income and it's enough to like stand on your own 2 feet, but it won't last forever. The ideal scenario would have been to be like in a job that you love and then also done this on the side and generate a second like income, because it was a very brief period, like in the November, December, Christmas period, when I was just absolutely raking it in, because I had my job, I was getting a monthly salary, and then I also had like this second income from the website, and that was when I was just like, I had too much money to know what to do with, really, for like someone my age, and like very little living expenses and stuff. So, I mean, would I work for someone again? Yeah, probably if I found like the right career path and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's definitely a change of scenery and one that was very welcome at the time.
Do you feel like there's the pressure's not there to jump ship anytime soon for another job or something at this very moment in time? I'm going to lead this on to what's a typical day look like?
Yeah, so there's no
basically.
pressure, but I'm definitely getting itchy feet. So my typical day right now is very chilled out. Once you've done all, like once I did all the setup for the website and ordered the inventory and tested it, that was all the hard work. And for lack of a better word, everything's sort of just on autopilot right now. So the business I'm running is an e-commerce store. You have your platform that you log into. You check what your orders have come in overnight. You print off the orders. You pull the stock. You pack them up. You log into like Royal Mail or whatever courier you want to use as service. You print the labels and then you go and drop them off at the post office. And all of that takes a grand total of maybe half an hour in the day. And the rest of the time you're just sort of pursuing your hobbies. And so it sounds like a dream, but it's not. It's not like, you do feel like I could. The question that I was asking myself for the past couple of months is how can I be more productive with my time? Like I feel I can be doing more, and I feel like I should be doing more. So what should I be doing? So it's not so much pressure to do something else, but it's just like that itchy feet and getting a bit bored and maybe comfy is the right word.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long has this transition been then? So when did this all start?
So it started in, I would say, September of 2021. No, is that right? Yeah, so September 21, and I had been working since August of 2020. So I don't know what that was off the top of my head. So it was about 10 or 11 months into working, I decided to start. And then 2 months of prep and like research and setting everything up. And now it's coming up on a year of running it full time. So
Why not? Yeah, go
At
on,
what
Jimmy.
point did sorry, I was just saying at what point did you leave the company then? So you obviously said there's an overlap. So you obviously started when did you leave the company?
February.
February.
Yeah, February 22.
You touched on about obviously research and obviously me and Jamie looking at business ideas and thinking about doing stuff. There's a big difference between actually thinking about it and doing it, and obviously the research involved. Why don't you give us a little bit about what that process was like for you? Was it as in depth as what you thought it was going to be? And because obviously we want to touch on maybe if you want to share like what you're actually doing.
Yeah, I'll share. So yeah, it's funny because like obviously if you've been to like business university or college and you've been taking a marketing course and they teach you like SWOT analysis and Porter's five forces, and it's not like you do any of that. But a lot of, like it's not all like there was some application of that because you do your market research and see what are the established players that are basically opened up. This is the process I went through. Opened up Alibaba because that's where everything comes from China. Obviously, if you're going to buy a consumer product, it's going to be made in China. And you just go I went to the hot or popular products section, just to see what was already doing well. It's not as if I was going to create a product out of thin air and, go market it and create a whole new product category. I just wanted to find an established market that was large enough and I could just like take off a small piece for myself. And one of the first products I came across was like Apple Watch straps. And this is like a very small, very cheap product. There's obviously like a massive market for them. You look at the numbers and it's like Apple sells 35 million a year globally, like around the world, 35 million Apple watches. And so every watch needs a strap. And some people have more than one strap, so around the world. And that's just every year. So over the past 5 years, how many have they sold? There's hundreds of millions of them out there. In the UK alone, there's probably tens of millions. And then what you can actually do is go on Google's keyword planner as part of the Google Ads account. And if you just type in different search terms, it'll tell you how many people are searching for a certain product or a certain category every month. And the result was 70,000 people are searching for Apple Watch straps every month. And so in my head, I'm thinking, right, 70,000, if I can take off 1% of the market, capture 700 sales a month, and every sale is going to be a tenner, that's $7,000 of revenue a month. And if I could make a 20% net on that, that's enough to get me by. And then so the next up is the question is, can you actually capture 1% or 0.5% or 2% of that market? And to do that, that's where your competitive analysis came in. So another feature of Google is Google Ad Console is you can actually see what companies and what domains are targeting those keywords already. And so it basically just gives you a list of the competition and you just go and check them out one by one. And what I was finding was that there was an issue with all of the competitors. So either the website was just terrible. Like, it looked terrible. There was too much going on. It was a horrible color scheme. It was too
with the
publicly...
competitor websites.
Yeah. So a lot
Yeah.
of what you think, people, if anyone's listening to this podcast, they've probably seen these like YouTube videos that push like Amazon FBA or like drop shipping or whatever, and that's what a lot of the competition was. It was just drop shippers like trying to make quick money. And obviously drop shipping, if you're buying something from China and shipping it to the UK, it's going to be like a minimum of a week, if not two, for customers to get their product. So either the competition was either one, like had a terrible website, there was just too much going on, or two, they were doing like drop shipping. And then the third thing that I came to later was like a lot of them were actually expensive, and I realised that I could undercut them. So I could do a better website. Well, I was pretty confident I could do a better website. Two, I wouldn't do the drop shipping. Like, I'll offer a better service. And three, no, you could undercut them on price. So better price, better service, and better usability of the website. So that was just the 3 points I thought, if I can do that, I can cut off 1% of the market at least. And then that was my next stage to actually start investing some money in building the website and buying some products to sort of pilot the concept.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
how did your process go around setting the website then, and your costs to get this business up and running?
Yeah, so I just used Wix, like website builder. It's just like a drag and drop. Like, you don't need to know how to code. You just drag everything where you want it to be and set your color scheme and stuff. It was fairly simple. You just need to put in the time. So that was maybe like 12 hours collectively of formatting the website and getting everything set up. And then after that, you're just... Oh, sorry, before all that happened, I needed to make sure it was going to be financially viable. So that was just a case of opening up a spreadsheet and making some assumptions. So forecast your costs as much as possible. So I knew that I would need a Wix premium plan. That was going to be like 30 quid a month. A domain, which is like a tenner off of Google. Email inbox, again from Google, costs like 6 quid. So that's like 50 quid all in for the website and email. And then for your first month at least. And my thinking was, like, if it didn't work in the first month, I wasn't going to spend any more money on it. So 50 quid for the first month, and then some sort of inventory to pilot the concept. And
did you spend a lot on inventory?
I spent I think at the time it was about 1,200 quid on inventory. But wow. Again, I had a quick conversation with Jamie yesterday, and the benefit of these Apple Watch straps was it's a product that's very suited to just having one dedicated website. One, because, as I said, on the Google Search Console, there's people that are just searching for this product directly. And as it turns out, it's mostly like middle-aged mums who obviously don't know that just go to Amazon or go to eBay. They're just on, they open up their laptop and the first thing they see is Google, and they search Apple Watch straps. So 70,000 people a month are searching for these products. And then you open up the website and there's lots of variation. Yeah, so there's loads of variation. So like, you've got like your leather straps, your nylon straps, your silicone straps, your sports straps. And so it's just very suited to having one website and then all your different categories, and easy for navigation.
Yeah, I mean, like, your website looks like you've covered literally every possible strap you can buy. And you've gone down a limited edition route as well.
Yeah, that was just basically ripping off, like, that was what Apple called it at the time. So I just called it the exact same thing. Like, you don't want people to be confused and that sort of thing. And that was the other thing, when I was in the market research, like, these straps that you could buy in from China for, like 80 pence in some cases, you go on the Apple website and they're selling them for 100.
Yeah.
And like, fair enough.
What's the difference?
That's the thing. After the reviews started coming in, people were saying like, this is like the exact same quality as Apple. And I said to Jamie yesterday, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the exact same supplier.
Do you, obviously when you spend all this money on stock and you're setting up the website, there's obviously like this, maybe like a grace period where you before you get that first sale in, and you're figuring that stuff out as you go along.
Yeah.
Were you worried when the box showed up and you're like, are these actually going to be any decent? Or did you do any sort of further research to the supplier on that front?
Yeah, so like when you go on Alibaba, like you can talk to the suppliers and like they're all verified, and you can make sure you can check like how long they've been in business and stuff, and then you can talk to them and get samples, and the samples are dirt cheap as well. Like usually, like if the strap is like 80p, sometimes the supplier will just give it to you for free and just ask you to cover the shipping.
Right.
So you can get the samples in and make sure like they are good quality and stuff. And like I didn't have an iPhone or an Apple Watch, and I went out and like bought an Apple Watch like off of Facebook Marketplace just to like test them, just to, like make sure like they weren't faulty or whatever. And they are good. Like they do come with faults like every so often, like maybe like 1 or 2% of like the total inventory has a fault. And you can't use it, but the cost is so like small, like you just write it off and that's that. So you can go on Alibaba, get your samples, and then if the samples are good enough, then you go ahead with a big purchase. And at a certain point, you just have to take the risk. But as I was saying to Jamie yesterday, I was trying as hard as possible just to keep all the risk as low as possible. So the Wix website was month to month. I didn't want to pay for like a yearly plan up front, even though I might have saved like, I don't know, 50 quid over the course of a year. I didn't know if it was actually going to work. So stick to the monthly plan, stick to the monthly inbox. The domain was the only thing that you could buy like on a yearly basis. And then when it actually came to buying the first round of inventory to test the concept, I had loaded the website up like with all of the products like beforehand. Like before I'd even bought everything, I had all the images up and I had all like the like what they call SKUs, like stock keeping units. And there was something like 600 different like individual watch straps when you consider like if it's leather, if it's nylon, like what color of leather is it, what kind of like, and all these different variations
Different sizes,
and sizes. Yeah, exactly. So there's 600 different ones of them. And in my first round of inventory, all I did was just went to these suppliers in China and just bought like one of everything. Because if like you imagine like you just bought like 100 of the one strap, like if it was a black silken strap, which is like one of the really popular ones, and someone comes to your website, like they might just look at your website and say this is someone that just sells one kind of strap. So I just to buy like one of everything, it gave that illusion of like being a much larger, more established business. Yeah, exactly. And then once like you've proven the concept and I got my first couple of sales in, I thought, right, I'll take the plunge and actually buy like, go back and buy like 5 or 10 units of everything. Yeah.
That's an issue when obviously you're I guess it's any business, but at small scale you're growing and then you're kind of buying stock to chase the sales, but then obviously depending on how much you're putting in, you're kind of, I don't know, have you seen like I've assigned X amount of capital to this business and I can't go over it, or how did you run your books that way, or are you kind of like it's what it is, if I can make a sale I'll have the stock?
Yeah, no. Well, the markups on these particular products are so high. Like, it made sense to just have everything available the first time around.
Yeah,
like you could sell through like I think at the time it was like 1/10 of your inventory and make your money back. So the risk was relatively low for like buying everything, and then after that first round, like then you can start to optimize. So there is just stuff that just like never sells. And there was some stuff like the suppliers were offering that I just wouldn't, like no one on earth would buy it, so I don't even know why they were selling it, so like, I just didn't bother to buy in the first place.
I'm actually sorry, I was just really surprised how cheap sort of inventory is for this sort of product. I thought it'd be a bit more than what you're describing, so obviously
it's crazy how cheap the stuff is.
Going on your website, obviously you're signed up for Trustpilot. I see you replying to comments on that as well. It's quite fun. I can actually imagine that being quite a good marketing tool. People see that actually people are buying and obviously responding. Is that why you set that up?
Yeah. So on the website, like I put like this live chat feature, which doesn't really get used all that often. Like I maybe talk to like 50 people on it in total over the course of the year, but it is there for like people that need it or want it. And again, like even if you're not going to use that like live chat feature, if you see it's there, it sort of gives like a bit more of an authentic feel to the website. That was my original thinking behind it anyway. And then there was like at the start when I wasn't established, I didn't have many sales coming in. There was people asking like, "Do you have a Trustpilot?" or any reviews anywhere, because obviously you're just not established at that point. You're asking people for money on the internet, so they're just wary of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on that front as well, I'm quite interested to see, obviously, a lot of planning, a lot of work gone into it so far. And then as you're saying, it's kind of like set up, doing its own thing at the moment. But do your parents have a take on what you're doing? Do they support it? Is it something that's you've explained to them? You
Yeah,
explain a
so
lot to us.
they were quite happy for me to like. My parents are so supportive. Like I work out of like the front living room in our house. Like that office is
Nice.
like my space. Like so they've been
Nice.
supportive in that aspect straight away. And they've never told me not to do something or like whatever. Like they're very much of the opinion like your risks are your own to take. Like it's your decision, do whatever you want, type of thing. But
Yeah.
just as long as you're willing to live with the consequences. And
Yeah,
again, as I
nice.
said earlier, like I've always said, like it's not going to last forever. And my parents were very strongly of the same opinion. I think they had some reservations, but not that they voiced them. So.
Of course.
We'll come around to obviously what your plans are. But what I'd like to do is obviously move into the marketing. Obviously, how did it start? I remember obviously me and you had a conversation yesterday, obviously a little bit about that side of things. But it'd be good to tell us obviously how you market your products, what you use, and obviously you told us a little bit about Google. But if you go a little bit further and how you do it, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I did a wee bit of marketing at university, but not a lot. And we ran like a personal blog and had to run it on Google Ads and spend a tenner, that sort of thing. So I had a bit of experience with it, but not a massive amount. But I thought like, there's so much information on the internet, like you'll be able to figure it out if push comes to shove. Um, but yeah, so the primary driver of the website is Google Ads. So as I said, like there's 70,000 people searching on Google Ads every month on average for like Apple Watch straps, and so I just set up what Google calls a smart campaign in the first couple of months, which is basically like if you install like software on your computer, you get like this install wizard, and it just walks you through all the steps and makes it really simple for you. And that's what Google's like smart campaign is the equivalent of for advertising on their platform. Um, and at the start, it was a complete disaster, to be quite frank, because as I later came, like I have a friend who is a full time digital marketer, and I gave him some advice, and he gave me like some help with this digital marketing in exchange. And he was basically saying if you're a rookie advertiser and you're using Google platform, like just avoid smart campaigns at all costs, because that's what Google uses to basically rinse all the new customers.
All right.
You
It's like labeling you as not legit or
no, just like if you're a rookie, like if you don't know what you're doing with Google Ads, like that's what Google uses to just rinse you, like take all your money if you're willing to give it to them.
Oh, I see.
So like,
I mean, you'd think it'd be the opposite way around, but that's
yeah,
mad.
no.
Well,
Basically, the smart campaigns is like you set up your budget of like how much you want to spend per day, but there's no like criteria for how much you're going to get in return for that.
okay.
So I don't know if you know any of this, like Gregor, like your cost per click is what you pay.
Yeah, so CPC. Yes.
Yeah, so like your CPC right now, my cost per click is like 31 pence.
Okay.
But when I was running it, and so that means like for every sale I make, I'm basically paying Google like £6 to make that sale.
Yeah.
But back then, my cost per click was like at times like running into like the pound 10, pound 20 area.
Yeah, and it gets scary.
Yeah, and it's obviously like
Yeah.
when you run the numbers, like you're paying like Google like 20 quid to make a sale, and the average ticket value is 20 quid, and then you've got like your postage and all that, so you're just running at a loss like straight away. But again, luckily I had this friend come in. He set up like one of their advanced campaigns and walked me through the steps. Basically, like the key that I got away from it was like you want to just put like this CPC limiter on, and that controls like how much you pay per click all the time. And then you can do some other stuff like negative keywords. So for whatever reason, like if you leave your ad campaigns running for long enough, someone somewhere will search like Apple Watch straps PDF or Apple Watch straps books.
And you just get random clicks, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll just get like all these random clicks that have like no intention of purchasing, and that's just like money down the drain for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it can be quite daunting, basically, because you don't really control that, right? And then it's like if you don't set out correctly, you end up spending money that's down the drain. Do you on that front, have you hooked up like Google Analytics to your website? Is that something you monitor?
I did do Google Analytics for a while. One of the interesting things I found in there, I don't use Google Analytics like on a daily basis anymore. Like Wix has like the inbuilt analytics, and I think they're like good enough. And the only things I'm really concerned about is like how much am I spending and how much money is coming in, and I can get that information like on my Google Ads account and on my Wix platform. So as long as those two metrics are lining up where I want to see them, like I don't really care about traffic or whatever. One of the things I tried Facebook marketing like originally in like the very early days, and it was really weird because I had like this was when I still had that Google Smart campaign set up. Google was telling me that I had 100 clicks that day, that the first day that I ran it, and on the same day that I'd set up this Facebook marketing campaign, like they told me I had 100 clicks as well. But then when I went onto like my analytics, like Google Analytics, they told me like 110 people visited the site.
Right.
And so like someone was lying. I just didn't know who.
Fake numbers, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is like, you don't quite know where it's coming from. I remember doing some of this for a garden furniture retailer, and then we paid a lot of detail to like bounce rate, because if you pay someone £1 to visit your website and they leave before even an image loads, you're kind of like, that's money down the drain as well. So yeah, it's you can get bogged down with it because it's very tedious, but and that doesn't really move the numbers. But if you set up correctly, it does, like what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I've looked at my conversion ratio is like 5%, which for like e-commerce
pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. And I think last time I checked my bounce rate was only like 30%.
Wow.
Which, and like as far, I've not had like much experience in like digital marketing or like e-commerce or anything, but as far as like I can tell online, like those are very good metrics. But
do you think I was going to say, maybe it helps that obviously you've tailored your keyword search, but also like your website is very clear to everything what a customer's got on there to look for.
Yeah, exactly. It's just such like a very niche website, and like if you search on, I think it's just a byproduct of the product. So if you're searching on Google for Apple Watch straps, like you already have like the purchase intent and you know what product you want. So when you land on the website, like you're gonna, if there's all these like 100 or 600 different like variations, you're gonna find what you want eventually. And I think that's just that helps a lot.
And arguably, you're at a price point where it's not £100 of straps. You're not like, you're thinking about it. It's more like, okay, I can take this risk.
Yeah. So you were talking about Trustpilot earlier. So like one of the things that the website is set up to do automatically is like 5 days after someone has made a purchase, it'll send them a coupon code for like a return purchase, and then that like piggybacks on your previous like Google ad expense. So you've already spent like the cost to acquire the customer. And now they should have by now like received the product and like been satisfied with it if they haven't returned it already.
Sorry, I was to say, I get a new customer, obviously a lot more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So just like making the most of those existing customers already. And then the other thing I was doing was like asking them for feedback.
Oh, nice.
On Trustpilot. So like, can you please give us a review? And you like, anyone else you talk to will say like, oh, those emails just go straight in the bin. You'd actually be surprised like how many people go on and like leave reviews, and it doesn't take much. And obviously, like it's email marketing, so it's absolutely free. So like, but as you were saying, like, the product price is like so low. Like the average ticket value in a website is like 20 quid. So for every sale that comes in, I make 20 quid in revenue. Gotcha. And I've actually had people like come back to me and say like, oh, I had a fault. Like after they've received one of these, like, can you please give us some feedback emails? They were like, oh, I wasn't going to say anything because like it was only 20 quid. But now I've got this email, like I've had like an issue with this. Can you like swap it or return it or whatever? So yeah, it's exactly that. Like it's such a low risk category as well.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
That's so interesting. That's good. So then, in terms of obviously moving forward with it, you're coming up obviously on the year of obviously planning and organising everything. What does the future hold for you now?
I think the next step I'm going to take is to try and sell the website. So there's a website called Flipper. I don't know if you've heard of that. So if you like search up like buy or sell websites, like it's like the first thing that comes up. My only issue is it's mostly an American targeted website as far as I can tell. But it's basically like a marketplace that allows you to buy and sell like e-commerce websites. They I was thinking about doing it like quite a couple of months ago, because as I said, like I'm aware this isn't going to be something that will last forever. I don't believe. So maybe I can like sell out to the competition, or just sell on to someone who wants to like pick up a new part-time job. Because as I said, it only takes like half an hour to run the day.
Yeah.
Once it's set up.
Is it not worth, like, obviously you're saying it's not forever, but obviously it's doing like a decent amount. Are you thinking it's not worth your time to continue that?
I'm just ready to, it's just a personal decision. I'm ready to do something else, I think. So right now I'm thinking about like going and becoming like a deck officer in like the Merchant Navy.
Wow.
Yeah, that was literally a decision I made like 2 days ago. But
Nothing. We'll get you on the ship next time.
Yeah, maybe. It's coming up on the year of like having started it, and so like once you've got like a year of financials and like proven track record, then like your business valuations are much more stable. Because I'd previously like thought about selling the website, and I only had maybe 8 or 9 months at that point. And the representative that was like talking me through the process was like, "Yeah, you're better to wait until you hit like the 12-month mark, and then you're much more likely to get an offer." So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have you? Is
Greg,
there any?
I mean, you're gonna buy it.
Do you get mates rates? We're part of your marketing, so we got discount on that. The other question I had was, you talked about Wix, the tools you use. Is there any other tools that you couldn't basically operate without at the moment? Do you use any inventory management, or is that all via Wix or anything like that, or finances, anything in the background that helps you day to day? I use Notion for personal life stuff and projects that me and Jimmy are trying to run.
Yeah.
Do you use anything of the sort?
No, is the short answer. I think like I've tried to use. Whenever you hear like e-commerce, like Shopify is usually the name that people jump to. I've tried to use their platform, and I just can't get used to it at all. I think it's too rigid, and like it doesn't offer like the same flexibility. I think like Wix is so much more like open to like, especially on like the design side, and they've been doing like a lot of work on like the analytics and the e-commerce, because previously like Wix was only like a information and like blog site basically, or like portfolio website creator. And then obviously like e-commerce came public and was like worth 160 billion or something. So I think they realized like where the money was at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So all the tools I use are basically on Wix. So like they give me all my traffic analytics, all my sales analytics. Like they'll tell me what inventory I need, what like popular products have been for the past like whatever time period you want. Like you can run all your custom reports.
So you would recommend basically them
as recommend, yeah, definitely.
Nice, that's good to know. I had another question about, what advice would you give someone starting something similar or wanting to start something similar? I mean, I feel like if they just listen to the podcast, you can get a good idea of what to do, but from your perspective, what would you say?
Yeah, I think the key always is to, well, from my experience, is to keep the risk as low as possible. So figure out like what you need at a minimum to like launch a product, like the minimum cost to like have something viable in the marketplace. As I said, like I only bought like 1 month worth of like premium membership to Wix, and I only bought like 1 unit of every product, because I had a grand total of like £1,200 went into the whole thing, call it 1,300. But I knew like, so the website was 50 quid that I would, if it failed, I wasn't going to get that back. That was just gone. But the inventory, I knew like I could maybe sell for half price or at cost on eBay if I needed to, like just liquidate it, or maybe even like, because it's so cheap, like just sell them for £3 a pop on eBay, something like that. So I was just constantly thinking like, how can I keep the risk as low as possible? How can I keep like the money I'm spending to a minimum and still have something to offer before you put anything else into it?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, can't argue with that. there's no other argument. Yeah. What are you saying, John?
I say it's just such an impressive thing. I have to say, it was, when we heard the story from your parents the other week, it was quite a surprise to us that you went down this route. But It's quite impressive how well you've done. A lot of people go into this business, as me and Gregor tried with our wee moon business, and it's hard. It's hard to get started, and I think you've obviously gone about it in the right way and actually done. Minimum risk is obviously the key thing. One of the things you said to me is obviously the postage as well. Even just the idea of like not having to post something big. You could store them really easily. They fit into an envelope. Just that simplicity of it is quite clever. So, it's good. Well, thanks, Scott, for coming along to the McEwan Brothers podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been good, and then hopefully maybe we'll hear from you in a year's time, and you'll be actually have started 4 businesses,
or be on a deck somewhere on a ship in the middle of the ocean.
More likely.
I've got. I think maybe our guests, whoever listens, will have a burning question. So, is a Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit?
Do you know? See, whenever I tell people that story, they always come up with the same thing and they go, so what is it? Is it a Jaffa cake or a biscuit? And I honestly can't remember.
I've got like a theory of like, I don't know if this plays into it. Obviously it won't, but I think a cake goes from soft to hard over time when it's left, but a biscuit goes from hard to soft when you leave it. That's my thinking, but obviously that's not going to play into a tax situation.
Was like, it's covered in chocolate, so it's a biscuit.
Cool.
Yeah. And I hate myself for knowing that.
Perfect. That's a great time to. So thanks, guys, for coming along, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. And we'll catch you guys next week.
See you next week.
Cheers, guys.